Good morning, kids. I'm so excited to have you here with me today. We are starting our new series on emotions, and we're going to be talking about a lot of different emotions that we experience in our life. And we're going to learn about how David experienced emotions in the Bible and what we can learn from him. There's a lot to learn from David in the Bible. First off, I thought today I would see if you'd like to play a game with me. The game is like this. Do you know that for every type of fear that we have, there is a word that goes along with it? For example, hydrophobia is the fear of water. Right. Maybe you've heard hydro before and know that that has something to do with water. And then you just put phobia at the end of the word, hydrophobia, and you have the word that means the fear of water. Okay, so are you ready for this one? This is for all of you kids who don't enjoy eating your vegetables. Lacanophobia. Do you think it is the fear of lemons, the fear of paper, the fear of people, or the fear of veggies? I kind of gave you a hint. That's right. It is the fear of veggies. And for those of you who are afraid to go to school, that's your clue for this one. Didascalinophobia. Do you think that is the fear of school, fear of shadows, fear of mirrors, or the fear of deer? You're right. It's the fear of school. That is exactly right. Now, I am going to not give you a huge hint on this one, but I'm going to give you the hint that most parents have this fear. Are you ready? Blenophobia. Blenophobia. Does that mean the fear of giraffes, the fear of clocks, the fear of dirt, or the fear of slime? What do you think? Yes, it's the fear of slime. As a parent, I am very nervous about slime because it can make a really big mess if it gets on the carpet or wherever. Well, maybe you can come up with some other fears. Maybe you could do some research and send me an email about the most interesting name for a type of fear that you can find. Do you know, today we are going to be talking about the emotion of fear. Is that a pretty good example of what the fear emoji looks like? Yeah. Fear is a big emotion, and it's one that sometimes can get us in trouble because sometimes because we're afraid, we make bad decisions, and sometimes those decisions can impact other people. And that is what we are going to be learning about today from David. And instead of Peter, my rabbit, this time around, I have my emoji pillow, and we think that this means laughter. If you know that it means something different, please let me know. And I would love to see if you have something that is an emoji, and you can send it to me at kim@ehumc.org. But this is the story about David. And so anytime I say the name David, if you are sitting down, I want you to stand up. If you're standing up, I want you to sit down. And it is okay if you'd rather just raise your hand. That's also a good option here. So this is a story that comes from the book of 1 Samuel, chapters 21 and 22. You might remember that David is the boy who killed the giant named Goliath. That's the same person we're talking about here. But he was really no superhero. He was an ordinary type of a person who dealt with a lot of problems, emotions, just like you and me. As a teenager, David was anointed as the future king of Israel. God told him at the right time he'd be king, but God didn't tell him when. The problem was that there was a current king named Saul, and he did not plan on stepping down from being a king for a very long time. He was jealous of all the attention that David was getting after killing Goliath. So Saul decided to take care of the matter by killing David. That is scary. And David was filled with all kind of fear. He was living a life on the run from the powerful King Saul who wanted to kill him. David, he didn't know what to do, and he was afraid that even God wasn't going to help him. So he decided to take matters into his own hands. David went to the temple to meet Ahimelech, a priest or a pastor, and said to him, "The king has sent me on a secret mission." Now that was not true at all, right? Because we know that Saul and David, they wouldn't have a conversation. David wouldn't do something for Saul like that. But David's fear was causing him to make a bad decision by lying and involving somebody else, a priest. Then David continued to involve Ahimelech by asking for 5 loaves of bread. Now, all the priest had available was the bread from the temple, but he decided to go ahead and offer some of the holy bread to David. Then David asked for something else. He asked if Ahimelech had any swords he could have. The priest only had the sword that belonged to Goliath, whom David had killed. And once again, Ahimelech offered David what he asked him for and gave Goliath's sword to him. David left from there, and he continued to run from King Saul, living his life full of fear. Now, this is the really sad part of the story. David's fear didn't just affect him. It affected the priest too. King Saul found out that David went to Ahimelech and was very upset that Ahimelech helped David. In fact, Saul was so angry, he instructed his guards to kill them all. Wow. David's fear and bad decisions ended up costing Ahimelech and his fellow priests lives. Can you imagine that? That day, the priest's son Abiathar fled before getting killed by Saul to tell David what had happened. When Abiathar found him, David apologized, saying, "I'm responsible for your father's death. Stay with me and I'll protect you." David realized that his fear and mistakes cost a lot and didn't just affect him. They affected a whole bunch of people. And that is true for us today as well. When we live a life out of fear, we will sometimes make bad decisions. And unfortunately, our bad decisions don't just affect us sometimes. They can affect other people too. Maybe you can talk with your parents a bit about how people sometimes make bad decisions that don't just impact themselves, but also impact people around them. And a lot of times, those bad decisions are made because people are afraid. Our power verse from today is from 2 Timothy 1:7, and it says, "For God has not given you a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, of love, and self-discipline." We will have so much more peace and joy when we say no to fear and yes to trusting in God. And so that is our goal this week, is to say no to fear, to make good decisions, and to trust in God. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time for our next lessons about emotions and about what David can teach us. Have a great week. Bye-bye.